Mare of Easttown is yet another incredible TV series from the legendary HBO that we got to feast our eyes on. Great visuals, captivating story, top-class acting, brilliant music, it has got it all. At least majority of people think so on IMDb. This crime thriller drama excels at its own whodunit genre whilst providing some unique and fresh takes through its plot. I could praise the show for hours and hours, trust me, but there is one particular thing that impressed me the most about it. The amazing use of misdirection and the ability to effectively manipulate the audience. In a good way. You see, for a detective story, it is a basic template to go through each person surrounding the protagonist, suspecting them in a committed crime. Normally, detective stories either straight away give audiences 4 or 5 suspects, clearly showing us that everyone else is out of suspicion, and in that case, the rest of the story is the main investigator working with these 4 or 5 suspects until the true killer among them is discovered. Or, the show would suspect literally everyone, leaving audiences completely clueless until the last few sections of the story, but these storylines rarely work out well. But Mare of Easttown does neither, or both, and partly it is because it was not limited by a feature film's length. The series used its 7 hours perfectly to keep the audience on the edge of their seats for the entire show. And in this video I would like to show you why the series presents a case for arguably the best use of misdirection based on its amazing story. Without further ado, let's delve in. With the first episode, the show uses its time most efficiently. The pieces are being set and the story is being presented, and the case is swiftly afoot. We get introduced to Mare, a local detective who is quite good at her job but also very troubled by her past. Mare has a difficult work which requires her to stay objective and cold-blooded while policing her town where she virtually knows everyone and is related to most of them. Already this makes it easier for us to relate to characters in the show as they are very close to the person we care the most about. Mare. First episode takes every single second to polish each character, giving us just enough information to form a certain opinion about them. Here is Frank, Mare's ex and a father of her children, who is a big gentle giant, somehow unconfident in himself. Probably after Pam dumped him for Jim. Here is Laurie, Mare's best friend, who is essentially an optimistic version of Mare with an arguably submissive husband, John. And here is Father Dan, a cousin of Mare and the main church guy in Easttown. Uh-oh, a case of missing children and we have a pastor character? Big red flag. We get introduced to a lot of people, yet they are portrayed so well through actors, their interactions with others and visual scenes that we are able to naturally and swiftly get to know them. And some of them of course are presented to be much less likable, like for example Dylan here, a selfish, arrogant teenage father who can't give a break to his child's mother, Erin, who is discovered in the forest after being brutally murdered and thus setting off the main mystery of the show. Oh, and don't forget about the arguably most mysterious man of the series, Richard Ryan, a somewhat successful writer whose arrival into Easttown just happened to coincide with the killing of Erin. Another interesting misdirect in my opinion. So all in all, yes, the first episode of the show seems to present a case for a classic cliched whodunit mystery, but it does also spice up the beaten path with some unique takes on each character. We are left with no suspects, or rather suspecting everyone, and a ton of questions. Who murdered Erin? Is her case related to the disappearance of Cathy from last year? Is it all Father Dan? I bet it is. We are left waiting for more clues to feed our curiosity, and oh boy, episode 2 does not disappoint. Ironically enough, one of the first people to find out about Erin's death is John, Laurie's husband. And look at his reaction. It's perfect. I mean, not only the actor's reaction, but the character himself. He could have reacted by the classic, what? He could have displayed some worry or slight stress, but for someone who already knew about her death and who helped dump her body, he is holding himself rather impressively. I would consider this a first significant misdirect, as I personally did not make much of this reaction and simply moved on with the story. Brilliant. Almost immediately, we see some of the key scenes of the show which the audience will only understand after watching the whole thing. For example, John and Billy, along with Mare, are about to inform Kenny, Erin's father, that his daughter is dead. And boy oh boy, what a stressful scene this is. First, you can see how worried and anxious Billy is for some reason. He's not handling this secret that he had with John and Ryan nearly as well as his brother. And now he has to face the father of that poor girl who is also their family. This is extremely hard for all characters involved, and the scene makes it just as hard for the audience. But of course, as we didn't know who killed Aaron, Kenny is a pretty strong suspect at first glance. Not only we saw that he was known to get aggressive and even physical with his daughter, Kenny is generally introduced as someone who is not in control of himself. Drugs, alcohol, financial troubles. He fits the bill extremely well, and Mary is very well aware of that. But then again, Kenny's reaction to the tragic news is also extremely natural, even more so than John's. No one would think this is how a father would react to his daughter's death, had he killed her. He is losing it even more now, and he should. His only close family is now gone, and partly because of him. But seeing the contrast how Billy is reacting to Kenny's distress, he's even more agitated now, even though he has no reason to be. If anything, all three should be comforting Kenny, but instead Billy gets extremely defensive, almost like he wants to run out of the door. While this is not blatantly obvious, it is noticeable and thus creates for another very effective misdirect. We are now again not sure who our prime suspect for the murder of Aaron should be, and all we know is that Kenny is now dangerous, as he has got nothing left to lose, and of course that comes to fruition with his interaction with Dylan in the forest. Another interesting scene that throws us in the wrong direction is interrogation of Dylan. He is not handling this interview well at all. First, Dylan does not seem to be fazed by Aaron's death. And look at how he answers to Mare's questions about his actions on the night of her death.
What time did you leave the woods?
I got home around midnight.
That's not what I asked. I asked you what time you left the woods.
He cannot get his story straight and is perpetually being caught in a lie for the rest of the show. Honestly, Dylan was my top suspect until almost the very end. He hated Aaron, he hated the fact that she'd not do an abortion, his new girlfriend wanted Aaron dead, and in general his life became chaos after he got together with Aaron. If anything, he has more reasons to want her dead than anyone. So yeah, if you fell for this trap like me, don't feel bad, this was intended. Yes, indeed, another very effective misdirect. Our prime suspect is now Dylan, and it would be quite hard for the show to change our minds. Except maybe it's Father Dan. I mean, come on, church pedophilia and stuff. Now here's one of my favorite misdirects in the entire show. In this scene where Mare is talking to her ex-husband Frank, the big friendly giant, notice how Frank himself starts the conversation about Aaron. Why would he do that? Again, the actor is doing a superb job of acting as dubiously as possible. And then after their conversation, he just casually says that, I think things weren't good at home, admitting that he had absolutely no foundation for such opinion, and then proceeds to give this fucking look. Wasn't that a split second of the most sinister face ever? It's like he saw Jim and Pam making out on a parking lot. And that's where some of us thought, that's for sure done on purpose, just another trick by show creators, no way he killed her. But then they dropped something absolutely insane towards the end of the episode. But we will get to that in just a second. Here is a little interesting scene as well. Billy seems to continue to struggle with his secret, but notice how the scene pays more attention to him rather than John, even though the latter is much more guilty of what had happened. Cheeky cinematographer thinks we wouldn't have noticed, but we did, didn't we? And then the rest of the episode is relatively calm and quiet until this fucking scene right here.
Aaron wouldn't tell me who the real father was, but I think it's Frank Sheehan.
Say what? I knew it, some of you would say. The big friendly giant turned out to be an evil guy. But as always, every time we think we got it all figured out, the show says, nah, fuck you, you're wrong. This episode is somewhat of a break from the main storyline that delves more into Mare's grief. But don't think I forgot about this dude right here, Deacon Mark Button. This guy is hands down the creepiest dude here. Not only he already had a problem with minors in his previous employment, he is now apparently disclosing his friendship with Aaron. The writers tried their hardest to convince us that this dude is up to something, but that would be way too obvious, no? Just like with Frank. True, but we have so many suspects now that we can't just cross off anyone off our list. Besides, he's way too cooperative, surely he has something to hide. I mean, just look at his face. Other than heavily playing with this character, this episode does not contain any misdirects. Except the scene where Deacon Mark throws Aaron's fucking bike into the river with the most menacing face I've ever seen from a priest. Damn it! What is happening? I bet he's covering up tracks for Father Dan. It must be Father Dan. No way it's someone else. I figured it all out. Oh wait, I've seen the series. I know who the killer is. Fuck. Deacon continues to be suspicious as hell. At this point, it's like he's confirming to the police that he's indeed hiding something. He is suddenly no longer willing to cooperate or at least be open about it. And we all know why, as we have seen the series, but still, what a brilliant way to keep suspicion on a character without giving a precise answer to the audience. What this episode is key for is that we finally see our killer, well, at least a glimpse of him. The show is brilliantly keeping the intrigue until the very end. Or does it? This could still be literally anyone. Except maybe Dylan, because it doesn't look like Dylan. But then again, who is to say this guy is responsible for Erin's murder? So many questions. Finally, Mare is falling on the right trail with the scene. What a brilliant part of the episode this is.
How long she stay?
3 weeks, maybe.
It was a little longer than that, wasn't it? I thought it was at least a couple months she was with you.
I really don't remember. It was a long time ago.
I'm sorry, so Erin lived with you, but apparently you have no recollection of how long for? And you are that nervous when talking about her and suddenly you have to go? Yeah, no shit, this guy is 100% up to something. And to be honest, this wouldn't even have been a misdirect, except look at fucking John. This guy's chilled as fuck. How is he doing that? Except his true emotion do really slip out a little, but it's not like anyone would notice. I wish I could lie like that. Oh yeah, how could I not mention this scene?
It's our secret, right?
If only we knew this was the actual killer of Erin. But no, the kid played both his mom and us for making us think his psycho daddy is merely having an affair again. Jesus Christ, this family is really all over the place. And here is the scene where Ryan beats the shit out of another kid for bullying his sister. You thought this scene was out of place and pointless? Hell no! It's to make us believe that this guy is capable of violence, that he will literally beat you to death, protecting his family. And this setup for sure pays off later, as we now learn more of the violent nature of Ryan. So Billy continues to lose his damn mind as he probably blames John for not taking responsibility, but of course we as audience think that he is talking about cheating. Perfect misdirect and quite believable, especially since John falsely admitted to having an affair. Although he was cheating with his underage cousin, damn, John is kinda fucked up. I want to point out that no other hints were thrown in the direction of Guy Pearce's character. He just seemed perfect throughout the whole series, except for his mysterious appearance in Easttown. But I thought that this was actually the biggest misdirect of all, making us think that Pearce's character had nothing to do with what's going on in the show, and then at the very end, a grand reveal, boom, he's the murderer. But oh well, I fell short here too. Now, towards the end of the episode, we finally reached the end destination, the 3 grand reveals, 2 of which are fake. First was that actually it was Billy after all, and we could easily buy that judging by his preceding behavior. Then, thanks to the selfie that Erin took, it appears that it was actually John after all. And yet again all dots are aligned, especially since our minds instantly go to the "it's our secret" scene. See, the story and its misdirects were used so well to make us believe that literally anyone could be a murderer. And at this point, I did really think that the mystery is solved. But how can we have another 70 minutes episode? And that's when it hit me. It's fucking Ryan. It was the little shit all along. His anger, his anxiety, his reaction to any interaction he had with people surrounding him, everything lined up perfectly. What a brilliant build-up the show had, preventing us from ever digging a hole under Ryan. He was literally the last person I would suspect, partially because he's a child, who seemed quite orderly and innocent, except of course for his violent nature. But the show developed his character so exceptionally well with such care that this arguably grandest misdirect of the show paid off completely. Well, at least to me. And that's about it for why Mare of Easttown is a case study for a perfect misdirection. But the question is, do you agree with me? Do you think the show did a good job at keeping its audience entertained without giving too much away? Or do you think it's just a piece of shit riddled with cliches? Please let me know and let's talk about it all in the comments. If you like this video, please feel free to leave a like or a dislike, whatever. That just helps me to understand what kind of content I should or should not be putting out. Thanks again for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one.